Before I start this video, I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I want to let you know that Hunters Encounter Aliens Part 3 and Best Proof of Giants Part 2 will be done next month, as I am a bit behind at the moment. And also my hoodies and shirts will be available at a discounted price until January 1st. If interested, the link to my store will be in the description and in the top comment. Now, I love covering Bigfoot, and thankfully for us Bigfoot junkies, there are plenty of Bigfoot encounters out there, and this one is interesting. In Arizona, there are currently 2,000 missing people, and about 1,500 cases of unidentified remains. According to this article, Arizona has more missing people than any other state. And what I want to talk about today is the Verde Valley Bigfoot. And you can see on this Missing 411 map that there are a lot of disappearances here. And David Pauli's, the author of Missing 411, stated that in the United States, there are 28 clusters of missing people. And one of those clusters is in the Verde Valley area. In this article, it says that David noticed that in areas that have the devil in its name is usually a hotspot where people go missing. David stated, "A lot of people over the last 5 years we've done research on have disappeared in areas where there's devil in the name. The people I'm around every day I work with, sometimes we look at each other in the eye and we can't believe what we have found." Now that is interesting. And in this area that we're talking about today, there is a place called the Devil's Bridge and also the Devil's Kitchen. And there are a lot of Bigfoot sightings here, especially in the Verde Valley region. Now when most people think of Arizona, they think of the desert. But in northern Arizona, there is a lot of trees. It is very similar to that of Oregon or Washington. And locals call this Bigfoot the Mongolian Monster. One of the first documented sightings happened in 1903 when a man, I.W. Stevens, told the news that he saw what he thought was an extremely tall wild man that wore no clothes and had a lot of hair that covered its entire body. He also noticed that it had talon-like fingers that were about 2 inches long. Now, since there were a ton of sightings of this creature at this time, the locals started calling it the Mongolian Monster, as the name Bigfoot wasn't even invented yet. The people who lived in this region also stated that this monster was highly territorial and could be violent. One eyewitness stated, "This creature was huge. Its eyes were deep-set and hard to see, but they seemed emotionless. His face seemed pretty much devoid of hair, but there seemed to be hair along the sides of his face. His chest, shoulders, and arms were massive, especially the upper arms, easily upwards of 6 inches in diameter, perhaps much, much more. I could see he was pretty hairy, but I didn't observe how thick the body hair was." There are also stories of shepherds who would not walk their sheep through the Sycamore Canyon because of the giant hairy men that live there. And these Bigfoot sightings happened a lot back in the 1800s, and today they're still going on. One eyewitness stated that he saw a Bigfoot-like creature while he was out hiking, and he could not believe how bad it smelled, and it appeared to him that even the animals were scared of it as they were running away extremely fast. Another recent sighting happened when a group of friends were camping, when they noticed that rocks were being thrown at them. And these people knew that this is what Bigfoot does. And one of the campers had night vision goggles, and he saw something crouching behind them, and whatever this was extremely large. One famous sighting happened when a man was touring houses that were just being built, when he claimed that he saw not one, but several Bigfoot-like creatures, and it appeared to him that these creatures were not very happy about all this construction that was going on. Another sighting that got a lot of news at the time happened at the Bradshaw Ranch when the owner claimed that she had seen a female Bigfoot multiple times on her property. Linda stated that this Bigfoot, who she called Big Girl, would often leave her long sticks arranged in geometric patterns, like some sort of gift. And when she wanted Linda's attention, she would often bang on the trees or the fence post. Now allegedly this place, Bradshaw Ranch, has a ton of paranormal activity going on, from Bigfoot to aliens and other strange occurrences, and I might cover this ranch in a future video as this location seems fascinating. Then in 2006, the local Native Americans started seeing these creatures on a regular basis. One native stated, "We're not prone to easily talking to outsiders, but there have been more sightings than ever before. This cannot be ignored any longer." Now the natives believe that this creature, the Mongolian Monster, is a spiritual being that exists in another dimension, but they can appear in our world if they want to. And if you see one, it might be a blessing or a warning. I once read an article that said in some Native American tribes, only the healer or the medicine man was allowed to talk to Bigfoot. And if you weren't a medicine man or a healer and you tried to communicate with it, it might attack you. Now in the beginning of this video, we talked about people vanishing, and some believe that Bigfoot might be responsible for some of these disappearances. And the reason why is there are a lot of Bigfoot sightings where these clusters are, such as here in the Verde Valley. And there's also a heck of a lot of UFO sightings as well. And there was something in this article that really surprised me. The author wrote that people here in the Verde Valley claim that sometimes they see orbs just floating in the forest. In my last Bigfoot video, I talked about the Sierra Camp in California. And these eyewitnesses believed that from time to time they would see and try to communicate with Bigfoot. They also saw a lot of lights in the sky as well as orbs. And this location is right next to the biggest cluster of missing people in all of the United States. And this place is Yosemite, not that far away from the Sierra Camp. Now in Verde Valley, there was once a group of ancient people called the Anasazis. Not sure if I pronounced that right, but these people built a castle-like structure in the middle of a mountain. And the only way to get there would be to climb down the top of a cliff with rope, and it's about 100 feet down. Even today with ladders, it would be very difficult, especially if you had to do it every single day. So it appears that these ancient people must have been really scared of something. But what? We humans at this time were at the top of the food chain. What scared them so much for them to build a fortress in the middle of a mountain? Now this reminded me of that movie, The Time Machine with Guy Pearce. In that movie, Pearce builds a time machine and accidentally goes far into the future. Then he meets this tribe of people who live off the cliffs, very similar to that of the Anasazi Castle. And Guy Pearce quickly learns that people in this tribe keep disappearing. And this is the reason why they live like this. They are scared and they're trying to survive. And later in the movie, it turns out that a Bigfoot-like creature is responsible for all these vanishings, making me believe that the writers of this movie must have known about the Anasazi people and all the Bigfoot sightings that go on here. Now what do all these clusters have in common? There's Bigfoot sightings, there's UFO sightings, orbs. 9 times out of 10 this happens in remote areas, mainly in national parks. Some believe that these areas might be home to portals. One story I covered in a previous video told of 2 women who were hiking in Sedona when they saw what looked like a shimmering pane of glass right in the middle of their path. And one woman put her hand through it and her hand just disappeared, and these 2 women were scared to death and they ran back to civilization as fast as they could. And strange encounters like this happen quite often in these areas, making some wonder if these alleged spontaneous portals have something to do with all these missing 411 cases. Either they walked through it without knowing it, or maybe something came out of it and took them. Another interesting fact is most of these people who vanish never to be seen again disappear right before dusk, and there's usually a sudden change in weather. Now since there are so many people who vanish every single year in very mysterious ways, I believe that this is one of the biggest paranormal mysteries of our time. And hopefully one day we will figure out what or who is causing this. Until next time, this is Paranormal Junkie. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.